So if I can ask just one question, I think there were 350 of you who applied for the FLP. Why do you think only 30 made it through this one? I think there were 350 of you who applied for the Future Leaders program. But why do you think only 30 of you made it? Come again?
But weren't you looking originally for 30 people?
But you're saying, why were you selected over the other people? What do you think made you stand out from those people?
I think it's because all of us in this room were able to sell ourselves the best. So I don't think necessarily other people may have been inadequate, but I think we were able to sell ourselves or to be convincing in our applications.
I was also going to say something that we're not necessarily the best out of the 350, but we fitted the criteria of what you were looking for and the way we presented ourselves during our CVs or interviews, you know.
If you had said that during interviews, I would not have taken you. Honestly. And you?
I think that it was because of our CVs. Maybe our CVs were legible, really. And the second thing is that I think that most of us were very solution orientated. Like I remember in the interview, you guys took what we had said in our CVs and then put us in a scenario where we would have to kind of provide a solution. I know you guys did that for Ireland, and you know, I guess if you came up with good solutions, yeah.
Any other thought?
Maybe we were closest to the selection criteria.
Selection criteria. What do we mean by selection criteria? You are coming, okay. What do we mean by selection? What's criteria?
It means on a general scale of things, there are things that you guys are looking for. And with each and every candidate that you guys get, you then go back to the standardized criteria. I'm using criteria again. Standard things that you guys are looking for, and then you measure each candidate according to that. So you tick off certain things from.
If you can still recall, what is it that we really wanted from you? What was the advert saying? The FLP advert. Future leaders.
Under 30, that's what I remember.
We're passionate about
Under 30, one of the criteria, yeah. Undergraduate or having completed the undergraduate or any degree in the humanities or economics or development studies. What other criteria did you?
Long-term interest in asset, like a plan to stay in South Africa or long-term interest in South Africa.
Okay.
a commitment to social justice.
Commitment to social justice. Why do you think that is important? Or why do you think that was important?
Because the organization is committed to social justice.
Thank you. A lot of the people who did not make it through to the interview stage, let alone being selected, they did not incorporate their responses, looking broadly and saying, these are the values of the organization. This is what I think personally I value. And this is why I think there's compatibility between me and the organization. That's basically one area where a lot of people missed the point. What do you think was also the point missed during the interviews or the recruitment? Amongst you, who can be bold enough to say, I went for the interviews. This is how I reflected after the interview. This is how I think I went wrong during the interviews. Whom amongst you can say that? Let's get another And now, guys, you are here now. And you are doing this session so that you don't repeat the same mistakes again when you are applying. I think 2 or 3 months down the line, you will be applying. We will be starting the applying, the application exercise and stuff based on your values and everything. We can honestly reflect and say, I reflected after the interview, this is what I think I did wrong during the interview.
For me, I remember being asked a lot of really tough questions, but I don't think I answered the way I was supposed to answer. I remember it was also a time of the Penny Sparrow incident, and I was asked a question about Penny Sparrow, and I didn't know much about her. I just remembered the races. And I was also asked about Fees Must Fall, and I wasn't part of the Fees Must Fall movement either. So it was very difficult for me in that sense. And I was also asked if down the line I had to maybe say in March or in April, another company had to approach me with a 15,000 day salary, would I continue with this program? Those are things that I didn't think about. So I felt like I had to, it was tough being put on the spot at that time. So, yeah.
I think for me, when I reflected on the interview, I don't feel that I was completely honest. And the reason I say that is because a lot of my answers were answers that I thought that she wanted to hear. So, like I know if I had expressed the same radical views that I've expressed in the sessions in the interview, I probably wouldn't be here. Because I remember you asked me about that.
This guy was very radical.
Because I know, like, you asked me about.
I think also that guy. There was a guy from the ASRI Youth League. He was very, very radical.
And I remember there was a question about the possibility of a rainbow nation and non-racialism. I gave a very PC answer. And after the interview, I was like, hey, but yeah, like, that's not you though. And then there was a question of like the whole Penny Sparrow debacle. And I remember I had like a whole like Facebook post about how we must kill racism. And the only way we can kill racism is by understanding that white people are inherently racist. So and then in the interview I was like, no, I'm like, yo, I mean, we work together, you know? So I don't feel that I was honest.
I think when I reflect on the interview, it was a really interesting interview because it wasn't about like tell us about your strengths and weaknesses, tell us about why. I mean, some of it was like why do you want to do the program, but it was really a very comprehensive and I think deep conversation about South Africa and how you fit into the program. And it made me think about things that I do post ASRI of really thinking about like how do you fit into a role, why are you doing a role, and not preparing in a very narrow sense, but preparing more broadly.
Okay guys, let's hold on there. What's the key word in her response? The response that she gave now, what's the key word in that response?
Preparing. Narrow.
One word. Very key word in this presentation, one word. Fit or match or compatibility. We took you because we thought that you will match what you were looking for. So really recruitment and selection is about saying or asking yourself, is this person matching the personal attributes that you just learned now from the industrial psychologists that were here? Are the personal attributes that you are looking for as an organization evident in the person that you are interviewing? So sometimes it's not a case of we're taking someone because we're seeing that currently they are performing and they can perform. As you were saying that we bombarded you with a lot of questions that you were not able to answer, but you saw potential. So there's two ways of looking at these things. You can look at current performance or what might exist currently, or you can look at potential. I'm going to frame the session based on what is it that you are looking for as assessors, as industrial psychologists, as HR people when you are doing interviews or when you are recruiting, especially when you are recruiting, because it is the stage that the first stage that you want to surpass as a job applicant. So we'll talk about a model called the person fit environment approach. Basically, it says the person must fit to the environment. Or the environment somehow must fit to the person. But it's not done that way. A lot of times we always want to fit the person into the environment. But it should be a two-way thing though. But I don't think corporations, when they design their corporations, they've got attributes and characteristics in mind. If they will do that, then we'll change businesses now and then on a day-to-day basis, because you get new people with different characteristics, and as business change, you need different characteristics from people. So I'll send you the slides. I hear that you've been calling for slides and I'm here. So we'll talk about career empowerment, what is a career and cars, career adaptability. The last one is very important, especially in this modern world. The world of work today is changing. You don't know what you might do in the next 6 months. So there's what we call adjustment. when we talk about personality, the ability to adjust. If you are a manager, if you are a financial manager, that was the most spending in a company. Can you maintain it, or can you maintain your function if it were to say next year we're pulling down our strings, we're not spending anymore? Can you function in that environment? Or should we get another accountant, an accountant that we know is going to be very conservative? Career anchors, all of you here have got values, you've got interests, you've got motives, I think you've got 2 or 3 careers or 4 careers that you think these careers best suit me, or these occupations best suit me. We call those anchors. Maybe you want to be a teacher, you are here now in the social justice space. So I would think a lot of you, or 50% of you, will end up maybe in the civil society, fraternity, or in government or stuff like that, or in policy analysis or policy research or something like that. But those are your career anchors, what you value most. And there's, what do you mean when you say you are empowering people, you are empowering a career? But what is a career itself? You graduated from grade 1 up until grade 5, up until your tertiary. Some of you graduated, your postgrads. That is those journeys of learnings and adaptations. We call that a career. And then what is career empowerment? The definition it is an organizational strategy that gives workers more responsibility for owning and managing their careers by providing a relevant, supporting human resource practices. We'll touch upon this on the last slides. How we think as ASRI are going to be able to kind of like assist you going forward, kind of like say, manage your career, but we are here as a support system. So as I was saying, this background comes from, or it draws from the interviews or from the applications during the recruitment process of the Future Leader program. Me and Sumaya had made a very, very strong commitment to say, we're going to give a session to say, guys, this is how you should tailor your CVs. Your CVs are very bad. Your CVs are very good. Or you relied on your experience. Nonetheless, they will take me, I've got experience and stuff like that. But there's there's specific formats or specific ways which you should tailor your CV. How you should tailor your CV. We'll stick to that word, that keyword, fit. You must tailor your CV with illustrating how you are fitting to a particular role, but we'll expand on that and talk about what we mean about that. But the most significant was that a number of CVs lacked a key component, contextualization of CVs with a specified set of competencies on the FLP recruitment advert. What I ended up doing with your applications was to take your applications and say, this is a story that he is telling me. This is what I want to find. Now I become a lecturer there and a marker. This is okay, I want to find this. They're talking about social justice perhaps here. Okay, here they're talking about, and I argued with someone to say, okay, we can take them because blah, blah, blah. Not necessarily that the CVs were good themselves. The majority of those who did not make it through to the interview stage failed this aspect, contextualization of your CV. We said you must tell us what projects you've done. But a lot of you, we had to prompt or we had to prime you for you to tell us that. You know what that does to applicants. For an example, the question on what do you think, why do you think, given the talented, experienced, educated pool of candidates that we have, why do you think you are the best candidate fitting this position? It shivered a lot of you. A lot of you. And that's what not to be the case, but not to be the case. That question ought to be incorporated. When you go for an interview, knowing that question is going to be asked. So how do you tailor a response that would make that question fade away? Because that question must fade away, because if you're not prepared for that question itself is going to kill you. It's going to take a lot of points from your assessment. So we recognize that subsequent to completion of the program, you will be applying for different positions in both the public and private sector. So this session is very important, very, very important, because the CV, it's where you sell yourself. Now we'll talk about the difference between a CV and a resume. What is CV? What is a resume? Are they saying the same thing? Some of the things that you do is that you don't take these learnings. How many of you are keeping journals in terms of what is happening in your program and incorporating it in your CV on a day-to-day basis, or on a weekly basis, or on a 2-weekly basis, and say, for this past 2 weeks, this is what you did, this is my experience, so you put it in your CV. How many are doing that?
I haven't started. That was the
That's the problem.
That's the problem.
That's the first point there. That's the problem.
Be consistent.
Yeah, you are very reactive when you combine your CV. You combine your CVs because Nedbank has opened a position, and you're so under pressure. You can't recall the information. There's relevant information that you think, you know what? Hey, this information, if I can put this experience, but you don't know its details. Remember, when you keep a journal, you are able to recollect your thoughts when you keep a journal. So it is very important, even during this program, that you keep a journal of your learnings. This is what I've learned. Yes.
Just on that, in terms of this program right now, we're mainly just being introduced to a lot of topics.
Yes.
So in terms of the CV, you wouldn't really call that experience.
It is experience. It is experience.
Also, that similar question was that when I was working last year, I kept it general because it was what I was doing, practical experience that I was gaining, but like on the receiving end.
Here it's about the learnings. You reflect on your learnings. It ought not to be a page, just a paragraph, maybe out of each and every section. This is what I've learned. It builds you. So much that when you finish this program, you have maybe 10 pages or 6 pages or 5 pages. You can read those pages. Those pages will build you. Going to the next interview in a social justice space, you will be very good. Very, very, very good. Applicants tend to discard knowledge gained from the informal experiences. There's a lot of work that you do informally, but you think that work doesn't fit to your career path. It is your career. It's about how you present that work or that experience. This is very important. CV structure is all over the place. It's not coherent, it's not flowing. What I also found was that you've got people who copy and paste from the CV that they send at Nedbank, and it's their first page, okay, cover letter, it's a copy and paste thing. You can see it from the copy and paste, there's different fonts within the copy and paste. Something like a picture. It's not, you can't open and paste it up. The format is so bad. So structure is very important. It's like writing a thesis. If you write a thesis, structure becomes very important. Because by structure, you're able to lead the reader. Makes reading easy. Some people, you look at two things, you look at the font, you look at like it's a copy and paste, the date is wrong, everything. It says to him it may concern, it's not speaking about me. And then they're going to Nqapela, okay, sure, it's not talking about me. You put it aside. Maybe behind that cover letter, there's valid information that would have interested me going forward and saying, you know what, I've screened this CV, I want to see this person. So it's really about creating this impression. Because remember, if you organize your CV badly, it says to me as an assessor, hey, this person, they can't recognize the information. Think now about report writing and other things. I'm like, oh, I can't hire this person. This person will need to write reports, and if they write a report like this, because remember, as you were saying, when you are tailoring your CV, you are selling yourself. Sometimes you lack balance in terms of saying you talk too much about you, not about the synergy between you and the organization. The synergy in terms of the skills that you have, in terms of the experience that you have, in terms of the value orientations that you see in the organization, they're meeting, they're compatible with your values. You're not saying any of that, you're talking about yourself only, or you just talk about the organization. You need to find a balance, strike a balance. Now we'll talk, I think the second last slide, we'll talk about the cover letter, how we structure a cover letter. Approximately the length of the cover letter, how, yes.
I just want to clarify, I see CVs or resumes, is it the same thing, is the CV?
We'll go there.
Oh.
We'll talk about it, we'll go there. It's not the same thing. More importantly, if you had mentioned the ASRI and PC values and philosophy, I and how this resonates with their career orientations in their CV, thus showing a lack of research about the organization. The last point is very important. We're a new organization. Few of you guys here said, guys, you're a new organization. This is where I'm coming from. This is what I think you're looking for. Blah, 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 blah. I had to prime you. I remember asking you a lot of questions. I had to prime you. So Maya wanted to be very, I had to prime you because I knew what I was looking for. What do you think I was using there? What technique do you think I was using? Because I was asking you specifically, can you tell me where you had exhibited leadership skills perhaps? Is there any project? What do you think is the technique that I was using there? Because I asked you a few questions. Have you been involved in any project? You said yes. Can you tell me more about the tasks that were involved there? You said yes. So what was your role? You said coordinator. Okay. Were you a leader also? What is involved in leadership? And I probe because I know what I want. That technique is called the STAR technique. I'm asking you about the situation, and I'm asking you about the tasks that you did in the situation, or the tasks that were required of the role, and I'm asking you about your actions. What did you do? I was coordinating, this is what I was doing, blah, 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 blah. And I asked you about your results. And then what happened thereafter? But most importantly is we, even good or return CVs, they lack one component. You don't reflect. Now we'll talk about that in slide 8 to slide 9. You don't reflect, and we'll talk about what we mean about reflection. So we talked briefly about the person environmental fit approach. I'm not going to talk deep into it because it's kind of like psychology. But the main idea is that we need to fit the right person for this organization. That person ought to have the right personality. That person ought to have the right skills that we're looking for. That person ought to have the right aptitudes and attitudes and other things. We call those things competencies. We call them competencies, some things that we can measure, ask you about. You can't lie about your past. If you're involved, like you're involved in you've got a project and you've got small kids and you're doing a community development, you can't lie about that. Because when I probe deep, it's going to be clear that you are lying. So that's a competency, I can measure it. Even though maybe I'm biased because I'm an interview, it's not something that is standardized, but at the same time, you can't lie about your background. And at the same time, if I'm not talking to you over the telephone, if I'm doing an interview in person, then I can see your expressions, I can see everything. I remember after your interview, we had paused because I was very touched after your interview. So we had paused after that because I can see your facial expressions and everything. And those things, they transfer to me as an assessor. But you don't ask yourself this question when you guys are writing your CV. What is this person that is going to assess my CV or screen my CV looking for? What do human resource managers or industrial psychologists want to achieve when they are interviewing candidates for a specific position? The answer there is during recruitment and selection, human resources manager or industrial psychologist or the selection panel has one goal in mind: to fit the right person with the right attitude, skills at the right pay, at the right place, at the right time. Mm-hmm. That's basically what we want to do. So what are we expecting then from candidates when you are writing your own CV? So when you're writing your own CVs, you must equally tailor your responses by illustrating how you are the best fit for the position, contextualizing your responses based on the advertised competencies. You can't talk about everything else. There's certain competencies that you're going to be told. We need someone with this qualification. We need someone with 10 years experience. You must know labor law, blah, 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 blah. You must be in the dispute, you should have experienced 2 or 3 years experience in the dispute resolution space, blah, blah. You must be social justice oriented, blah. Those are your key competencies. And when you're writing your CV, you write your CV to answer that person, to say, I'm the right person for this job. This is why I'm the right person. I've got the skills, I've studied, blah, 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 blah. I've got this experience, blah, blah, blah. And you normally do that in the cover letter. But a lot of you guys are not doing that in the cover letter. And we must fix that going forward. why must candidates say, I'm fitting? Because remember, this is all about matching. Remember, there's a theory called social construction. That theory has a specific precept that says specific organizations or specific species, they attract different characters or different personalities. For an example, if you visit a lawyer's office, you will see that this person is a learned person. This person is someone who reads on a day-to-day basis. You can see just from the design of the space. You haven't seen a lawyer, you haven't seen anything. If you go to a doctor's medical room or to a theater, you will see that this person that's working here is a learned person. Because for you to use that tool, you need to study for that tool. They're working with people. You haven't seen anyone, you just see the space. So space itself has the ability to attract different personalities with different behaviors and different skills. That's what this guy is saying. This guy called Holland. This is Holland's theory. So Holland says there's 6 different occupations. Whether you like it or not, occupation can be classified into 6 different clusters. One cluster is that you've got the realists. The second cluster is that you've got the investigative guys. The third cluster is you've got the artistic guys, music and everything. The fourth cluster is that you've got the social guys, politicians, psychologists, and everyone else. The fourth cluster is got the entrepreneurs, the enterprise guys. Guys, even when they are working, they always want to do new things. They are risk-prone guys. And lastly, you've got conventional guys, people who are working with black and white. So Holland says, equally, people's personalities, when they are looking for occupations, or people themselves, if you can classify people themselves, you will see that people themselves, they are rather realists, or they are rather investigators, or they are artists, or they are socialists, or they are entrepreneurs, or they are very conventional. So a match in this sense would say, you must put a realist in the realist position, not take a realist, or not take an investigative guy and put him in a conventional space. You will frustrate that guy. And another reason why we are so careful when we're selecting is that we don't want to select people whom we know there's potential to fail. We don't want people to fail. Think about the impact of what I've just said. When we were saying in the educational space, we're talking about social policy and educational policy. When we're saying we're dropping standards, drop standards from 50 to 33, would you say those people are completely going forward? Because they will be accepted in the next grade, but would you say those people are completely going forward? You are just setting them up for failure, but it's a different debate for another day. So in your slides, when you read here, you will just be reading about personality, some perspectives on personality from an organizational perspective or an industrial perspective. Basically, personality, there's a relative or the stable characteristics within you. You can trace them as early as your age 5 or 6. That characterizes you. But they can change. That's why you've got the disciplines, psychology and politics. We believe that these can change. That's why you've got issues like behavioral modification and stuff like that. So when you read here, you will read how I've contextualized it. I've contextualized it in such a way that when you are reading it, you see why when we're talking about adjustment, personality adjustment in the work context, why as a worker, you ought to be able to say, or in your CV, I'm able to adjust. This is why I can say I'm able to adjust. Sometimes you are asked, can you relocate to Ntembeko? And you take that question very, 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 very simple. And you say no to that question. Or can you relocate to Cape Town? And you say no to that question. That's a very important question from your assessor's perspective. They are just assessing whether you can adjust socially or physically. I'm not talking about then your social system. If you are moving then to Cape Town, can your social system equally adjust? Can your wife and your friends and everyone that you're going to take out, they're going to be able to adjust psychologically going to Cape Town? A lot of times, 9 out of 10 times, the answer is always no there. That's why you see us here in Ntembeko, we are coming from the Eastern Cape, I'm alone, we have to go home, because people can't afford to live with their families. So that's why a lot of guys from Cape Town had asked them this question: are you going to be able to relocate to Ntembeko? Do you have accommodation in Ntembeko? What about living expenses and everything? Because we wanted to practicalize now this adjustment that we are saying here. So personality that becomes a very important trait within the work. I'm sure here as a group you are building now, you are kind of like getting used to each other, but you can like pick amongst each other, say this one is adjusted, easily adjusted, this one is stubborn, this one is it's very, very, very normal. We're human beings, so we assess each other, especially our social peers, we assess them on a day-to-day basis and we compare them to us. But this one is very important. If certain personality types are better adapted to certain job types, especially if, as it has been shown, that the individual's disposition translating or shape his or her work-related behavior, then it is important for individuals to understand themselves. You must understand yourself. We found a lot of you don't understand yourselves during the interviews. Although you've got guys who are very bold, just tell you this is who I am, blah, 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 and they refer that to their CV and their experiences, and you can see how that emerges from their CV and stuff like that. So interviews, when you've got into that stage of being interviewed, it's a very, you kind of like, you're 50% there. There's something that you see from you. As I said to you when you came into the room that day, I said, we're happy with your application. Just want to validate a few things and just talk and kind of like get to know you. So there you are at equal par with everyone, you're at equal stage. It's about, when we're saying you're selling yourself, you are selling yourself. So don't overdo it. I know a lot of guys would overdo it. So this is what we want to maximize. This is what we want to maximize when we are. I'm giving this background so that when you write your own thing, when you write your own CVs and resumes, you're able to say now, okay, the purpose behind recruitment and selection is to match candidates to a specific job. We want to maximize that match. The match is not going to be 100% because we still have to train you. We still have to do a lot of things. So that's where adjustment comes in. You are trainable. There's a lot of things that you can do. We can develop you and everything. A match between the anticipatory psychological contract of workers and the actual jobs. You study your BCom and whatever, and you say, this is the type of job that I'm anticipating. That is called an anticipatory psychological contract. So if we are KPMG or any other accountancy company, what we're looking for people with BCom backgrounds. People are very good at numbers and stuff. We want to maximize their dreams when they're still doing their first years and second years and third years. This is what I thought I would be when I'm working. I thought of work at KPMG. Now I'm working at KPMG. So this match approach, it fits to saying this is how you ought to tailor your CV. A very brief, short CV that says I'm this person. The skills that we have advertised, they match or they're compatible with what I have. This is why I'm saying it. This is my experience where I've exhibited the things. 3 paragraphs and they're done with the cover letter. And it takes you very far. Not a cover letter like mine. Cover letter that takes two pages. So where we end up saying we want to fit the person and their careers. As I've said when I was talking about land. But there's a few things that we ought to ask ourselves. Do you really mean that someone is really fixed to the realistic career? Is it possible that you are fixed to the realistic career? Only the realistic career up until you die? So sometimes the job itself changes you. Sometimes the dynamics within your social system, they change you. So you know what, in my neighborhood, there's a lot of social needs. This is what I need to do. At that time, it becomes something else. You're no longer a realist. You are an entrepreneur now, but you are a social entrepreneur now. But by value orientation, you never set to yourself, or it's not something that comes naturally to say I'm an entrepreneur. By the fact of being in a certain space, you're saying to yourself, let me be an entrepreneur, but let me be a social entrepreneur. Let me do something good to the society. So really, when you see a recruitment advert, or you see a recruitment advert, because at this stage we're talking about recruitment, you are really being invited to tell us, how are you the right person for this job? How are you the right person with the right skill, with the right personality, with the right aptitude? By aptitude, what you are meaning with trainability. You've got, there's potential within you to acquire new information and new knowledge. And there's a lot of ways to assess that. Kind of like say to this person, they've got a matric, they went to tertiary, they've got postgrad. So this person is really trainable. So when you talk about a person in the organizational sense, or in the CV development and everything, you're talking about a person matching them to the careers, to the characteristics of the attributes that have been advertised. And keep that in mind. You want to match that. If you are lying as you are saying, then it's your own baby. But earlier we said there's a difference between a CV and a resume. A CV is a very long document. It might be 8 pages or 10 pages, suited for professional work, teaching, research, what else? There's a lot, but in the professional space, publishers, because if you think about lecturers or doctors or philosophers, they've got a lot of publications, so that's why they fit in their experiences. Also, when vets advertises, they don't say resume, they say CV, because they know what they expect. They expect someone to write at least 8 to 10 or 12 pages, because we will have a section there that says my publications, my research interests. Those sections themselves, they might be 3, 4, 5, 6 pages. And then a resume is very short, succinct, very, very short, maybe 2 pages. Sometimes you're told 1, just give us a summary. Give us a cover letter and a summary, a page or 2 pages, not longer than 2 pages, because they know the difference between a CV and a resume. So that's they kind of like give the same information, but one is a longer version of the other. And this one, basically, who's applied for PhD? Who's applied for PhD? Why? It was never. Why? No, he's saying never. What do you think are the requirements when you're applying for PhD? In fact, let's say masters. Research proposal. Why do you think they want a research proposal? They want a CV, they want references, they want sample writing. Why do you think they need those things? Because it's like 12 documents, or 12 pages or 13 pages, because you're entering the professional space. Sample writing, they want to understand what type of person are you in terms of writing. It's called competence. Are you competent enough when you're writing? Are you competent enough when you're standing in front of people, talking to people? Because they know that when you enter the honors and master's level, the postgrad level, there's a lot of presentations. Oh my God. So sometimes you just see, I do this mistake myself. I don't think I'm an angel. Sometimes when you see a post there, okay, you take any other seat. Where's my CV? Take a CV and you apply. That's very wrong. Because a lot of my stuff is written CV. And sometimes you've got posts that says specifically 2 or 3 pages. And I know automatically when I go back to the site and look and like, yo, they wanted a resume and they gave a CV, and like, yo, I failed. I know it. So when you are applying, you are assessed on the basics, especially during the application process, on the basics. To say, for an example, time maybe, the closing date maybe, but not that much, because you can always talk with your potential assessors to say, okay, I'll be able, I'm here, I can't send, blah blah blah. So there's some flexibility, but instructions are very important. I know a lot of the people that are not here, and maybe some I don't know, they send their stuff in bits and pieces, and some stuff, now when you're interviewing them, it comes out of the bag. What must I do with something that comes out of the bag? Because I won't familiarize myself with. The most important thing is the assessor must be able to go through your CV very neat, so that they can make an impression of you, so that when you come, that's why when you came, a lot of you guys, when you came, I already know about you. Just wanted to feel the person that you are and stuff like that. So you are allowing that process when you are constructing a CV that says, I'm the person that matches this position. There was a lot of you guys, I think there was like 50 or 61 were fitting, but we had to argue in terms of why this one must be in. Well, this one doesn't have experience, that one has a lot of experience, but this one there's potential here. This one, blah, blah, blah. So we had a lot of argument when we were talking about we're talking about something else now, potential. And when we're talking about potential, link it to the definition of aptitude. It's the same thing as the definition of aptitude. We see an ability in you. But because this course or this program had a developmental aspect, that's why we mixed the group and said it is a development aspect. So that's why I'm saying stick to your instructions. Stick very, very hard to your instructions. Who did this? Whoever called and said, if you aren't sure, contact your agency and ask which would be most appropriate for the position. Did any one of you call? Okay, let alone calling for the CV. Call just to find out about ASRI. You called 1 in 30. Who else? 2 in 30. Who else? You went to the website. So, what lost me a job offer at some potential employer was that my friend were both given the offer and went to the same interview the same day. But she kept calling, now and then. She kept calling, now and then, asking about the people, their values, who's going to be in the selection panel, blah, blah, blah. Whatever people are there, and at the end of the day, that's how she got the job. Because she's able to tell me today. So you know what, oh, you're working somewhere, I got the job, so we meet on social space. Because ABCD and these things work. Because you're showing an impression that you're very interested in the organization. I'm not going to talk through these things, but these are competencies. I've adapted them. I've taken the occupational framework, occupational competency framework, and I've added a few. So when you read the slides, you will read the slides and say, if they're looking for intelligence, this is probably what they are looking for aptitude, this is what they're looking for interest, this is what they're looking for. Most importantly, is not the definition, it's your experience. That is what is most important. If you're talking about aptitude, where have you shown it? Where has it been displayed previously? You're talking about intelligence, what evidence is there in terms of intelligence? If you're saying you're superior, there must be an history there. If you're talking about personality, change in your personality and everything, adaptation, adjustments. We're talking about team orientation and you being a part of a team. I think I've asked a few of you guys, if you're in a team space, which role do you assume if you are in a team space? I think I've asked 2 or 3 of you.
Yeah.
So because these are the things that you say to yourself, I'm going to a Future Leaders Fellowship program. Definitely you will be working in teams or in groups. Definitely I'm going to ask that question. So that's why you must know the role. Must know the role, know the tasks that are associated with the role. Okay, I'm going to be a student. Okay, as a student, okay, first year student, there's not a lot of group activities. Post-grad, there's a lot of group activities. So you must understand the role, what is the role entails. If we're talking about an accountant, talking about someone who's going to be an accountant in a very small firm, or an accountant in a firm that is very big, it's called its own accountancy section. So that you understand or you are able to articulate how your interpersonal flexibility. So these are some of the competencies you should. I think by now, if you've been applying online, you know some of these, they come up or they pop up. I think 1 or 2 in every 4 or 2 in every 5 jobs that are posted online. There's always a planning component. There's always a results orientation. They're always looking for something who can meet deadlines, someone who can be a leader of some sort and stuff like that. But it's not necessarily about leadership. Sometimes it's about knowing yourself. It's about saying, if I'm led, this is the type of person that I am. If I'm a leader myself, then this is the type of person that I am. So it's showing personal insight that you know yourself. So I was talking about the STAR technique, very important. This is how you will be constructing your CVs. You will use the STAR technique because we use this. We don't deviate. One way or another, this is what we follow. Because we are always going to ask you, give us a particular situation, past performance, where have you displayed this before? What the task demanded, expectations, deadlines that you see, your action towards the execution of the task, your activities, might be interpersonal relationships, relationship management, communication. I've organized something, a plan, I led somewhere else, I was a manager somewhere, so there was a project planning and time management component there. I also manage the progress in terms of monitoring its progress and evaluation and blah, 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 and all that stuff. But what were the results? Lastly, as I was saying earlier, you like this part. Occasionally, quite a number of applicants fail to proceed through to the interview stage because of a lack of reflective skills. What learning was imparted? Were they soft skills, technical skills? What skills were developed? What behaviors were developed from the experiences? You don't talk, you don't say those. And you must be prepared when you are in an interview space to say, this is what was developed, blah, 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 blah. You know, and you must be able to say, it changed me, this is how it changed me, this is how it changed my behavior, this is how it changed my thinking. What you are now doing is, because you've kind of like highlighted on your weaknesses, but at the same time now, you are kind of like saying, this is where I'm currently at, and blah, blah, blah. You are closing the space for the assessor to say to you, what are your weaknesses? And if the assessor says to you, what are your weaknesses, you will say to them, I thought I covered those when I was saying blah, blah, blah. And they'll say, yeah. So a lot of you really shiver when you are asked, what are your weaknesses? Why are you shivering? Because you wait for that question to be asked. Now, I don't think you should put your weaknesses in your cover letter. They're not necessary. Your cover letter must just be able to secure you towards the interview. It's the interview where you're going to say a lot of things. But the cover letter must be very succinct. 3 paragraphs. The 4th paragraph is the closure. This is the type of person that this is myself, this is the job that I'm applying for, this is why I think I fit for the job, thank you very much, I'm looking for blah, blah, that's it. What did I say here? Because you have allowed the interviewer to ask this question. A rule of thumb is to incorporate this response to your reflections of learnings and behavioral transformation within the different roles you have played as exhibited in your experience section in the CV. So these things are linking. You're not saying something else in the interview, in the CV, you're saying something else. So we also picked that up. So, okay. And I would ask you, the assessor that I am, I would ask you, but you said this in your CV. What do you think was wrong? This is very important. This is a skill that was inculcated during the master's program. So for every intervention that we developed, we need to ask ourselves, what is wrong with this intervention? The one we've developed. Why do you think the intervention is not going to work or is going to work? It takes you out of your comfort zone. But for the purposes of you writing your CV or you preparing for an interview, it's very, very important. It's going to be asked. How did this come to your awareness? How was it resolved? What did you learn about the work and people? And lastly, how did this change your behavior? I was asked these questions at the military and I fumbled. I think this is the question that lost me at the military. Because I didn't prepare for it. That's why I'm saying when you're lying, it's going to be clear that you are lying. I could see some of you during the interviews. When I'm posing a question, you just keep quiet. I say to myself, okay. And I asked that question again, differently. And Suma says, ask that question. You know? So this question is very, very important. How did this change your behavior? The last question is important for a number of reasons. Behavior at the technical level. Remember, sometimes you are occupied or you are employed in a role that is at the most basic level. For an example, these guys at Safari, BIOS did helped Safari with the assessment of their workers, so leadership potential and so forth. What they found out was the guy that was manning the gates was the guy that was a leader amongst all of them, even the CEO. And the assessment said, take that guy, develop that guy, give that guy technical skills and everything. Take that guy in, that guy is a leader, based from assessments. So sometimes the behavior that you say you transform, for example, if you say you change your behavior, it kind of like say to an assessor, this person is adjustable. You know, this person, we thought this person was someone who could put at the technical level, but he's showing us that he's not at the technical level. Because his way of thinking, because you must be able to manage people where you work. We've got different personalities, different religious backgrounds. There's always a lot of cultural clashes and personality clashes, but you must be able to manage people. We call that emotional intelligence. But when you're writing your CVs, you're not going to say I'm emotionally intelligent. But you're going to kind of like give an illustration that's going to, especially when you are being interviewed, an illustration that's going to kind of like link or lead to the perception of saying, oh, this person is very emotionally stable. Take this person, make him a gatekeeper somewhere, make him a manager or something somewhere. They're not easily excited. Even when they're excited, yes, they're excited, but up to a certain extent, they're very intelligent, emotional. They can manage people, they smile with this one and they smile with that one, and they acknowledge the differences between themselves and those people, but still, they're able to reach out to those people. What do you think linked to the attributes of the team? And the team attributes you learned earlier when we're talking about the description that I just gave you. Which team role best fits a person who they've got differences, but they're able to say, these are my differences, this is the task. Even if I have a difference with you, I can reach out to you and say, and we'll work and separate the task or separate the problem from the task. A team worker. I also think so. Where will we behavior at the technical level is different from behavior that is required at the tactical level or strategic level, because in organizations, the more you're at the technical level, the more you know the technique of the work, how work is done on a day-to-day basis. But once you go up the ladder, the hierarchy in an organization, you become very strategic, become a visionary, become someone that thinks and just tell people, this is what I want to be done. And when it's not going the way you had conceived it, you tell them it's not going this way, A, B, C, D. So we know that there's differences in terms of behavior in that line, in that activity. Therefore, your ability to alter your thoughts, personality, shows a managerial level behavior. Sometimes, you mentioning a change in your behavior reflects high levels of adjustments, which might be what they are looking for. A lot of jobs nowadays are looking for adjusted people. Why? A lot of our work today is very insecure. There's few people nowadays who want to work at the same organization for 20 years.
Mm.
The world is very open today. Tomorrow I can wake up and say, yeah, I'm going to Australia. So the technology divide in itself. There's a lot of factors that make the world change on a day-to-day basis. It makes this notion of wanting to stay in South Africa forever, it nullifies that notion. So the minute you are able to say, and if you look at the types of work today, a lot of people are doing 2 or 3 jobs at the same time.
Yeah.
Temporary jobs here and there, and they don't mind because it's kind of like when you're aggregating the money, it's kind of like a huge amount of money. It's called that part-time work and other alternative work schedules. So there's a lot of that in the world today. So a lot of employers today are aware of that fact, and they want employees, if they can say, well, when am I going to be okay when they say to them, don't come to work tomorrow, don't come to work the other day. This is exactly, if we talk about adjustments and kind of like fit it within the labor movement and the mining sector, we'll see its application. When the employers are saying, whether they are lying or not, when they're saying today, we can't pay our employees, we're able to generate 20 rands. Our bill is 5 rands. If we pay our employees this month or next month the same 5 rands, it's going to kill us because we need to invest in quota for another 15 rands. So it kills our balance sheet. So the suggestion maybe to the labor unions will be, we need to shorten the hours of the workers. A lot of times, as we are seeing on TV, it causes strife, causes labor unrest and stuff. So adjustment itself is very important. So you showing that you have a level of adjustment, emotionally, behaviorally, skills-wise, you can be developed, is very important. The last question relates to self-critique and is important for a number of reasons. I dealt with this one. So these are general tips. General tips. You will find this anywhere. If you type in the word CV or resume development or writing or combination, you will find these things. The standard font in an academic setting is 11 or 12. In a professional setting, it's the same. I like this font size or this font style. Other people like caliber. Because they say it's very clear, they say this one is not clear. So how do you see that if this company likes this type of font? They would have posted some things before. So when you look into their web page, onto their web page, you can see, okay, this is the dominant font, so I'm going to use this font. This is like standard. Name, page number, starting on page 2. You can't say on the cover page, you'll say page 1. Cover page is a cover page. A lot of people, like myself, when I was inexperienced, I would just say apply, I've applied this. I don't even say this is the type of job that I'm applying, this is the title. I'm applying at SCT for a consulting job. You don't put the date, you don't put where they're situated. I found this, I'm saying these things. I found this when I looked at your own things. I looked at your own things and I saw a lot of, I said to myself, okay, but we'll deal it in the future. And as you were saying earlier, you need to be honest, very honest. very honest, because it's one thing to say to someone, you know, I can do ABC, and they hire you because you know you've impressed them. You're like, okay, I've got a tool, I've got a resource, they can do ABC. You put them in task and nothing is coming. The organization of your content, this is what my supervisor used to tell me when I was doing my online. Your organization of content is very bad. What did he mean? Everything is everywhere. The paper is not linking. Yeah, it's linking, but what's supposed to follow after some paragraph, it follows on page level. No, man, you need to sort yourself out. And then he looks at other papers, like, but you've written well in other papers. And they are, and sort yourself out. So organization of material is very important. There must be a lot of white space in your write-up. A lot of white space in your write-up. So that it's clear the reader can read, they can read straightforward. Because when there's no space between the paragraphs or between the sentences themselves, it cramps the write-up, and it's very difficult to read. You can't even skim through it. What you need to do now, you need to sit and kind of like read. But sometimes you skim, sometimes. When I read 300 applications like your applications, I don't read the Nqapela. I read skills and I look at skills. These are the skills that you're talking about. I wrote to the organization. I don't read these things. So, okay, I read, I know what I want to say. So when the material is cramped, you can't do that. And then to make the job easier for assessors will take that application, make it very easy for them to eliminate you. Remember, when you're sending out your CV, you can either be eliminated, of which a lot of you have suffered, or you can be called for an interview. So when you badly organize your CV, you are saying make elimination very easy. That's basically what you're saying. Elimination is going to be very easy. For an example here, coherence and flow. You say, I'm a PDE specialist, 2015. After that, my honors, 2014. After that, my master's, 2015. After that, my diploma, 2009. After that, it's not coherent. It flows between 2014, 2016, 2013, 2009. It's supposed to go, say this is the recent, in order. And even your work should flow, write as simply as possible. I used to say to my students, or I say to my students, write as if the person that is reading doesn't know the content, as if you're convincing that person, you're arguing then to that person. So when you write to me, send me an assignment, write as if I don't know this assignment. If you've got a key term, that key term, explain that key term. Don't just throw key term. This is aptitude, and you don't tell me what aptitude is. Even though I know aptitude, I settle that thing. What do you mean? What does this fit in now in this context? Right? Very simple, so that the work can flow. What's the time, guys? Oh, I've got time. You've got how many minutes now? So we're here now. This is simple language. Another important thing is there's this thing called serial positioning effect. Yeah? What it means is if I'm assessing 30 people, yeah, the first 2 or 3 people that came are easily recognizable than the last or the middle of the distribution, like person 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I'm always fixed on the first person. The first person, that interview was nice. They attended because also myself, I was fresh, and now the 30th person, I'm very tired and I can't remember them.
What's the theory called?
Perceptual errors. It's under perceptual errors. Under cognitive psychology, under perceptual errors. You look for something that says recency effect or primacy effect or distribution errors. There's a lot of them. If you just Google perceptual errors or Google perceptual errors, you will see them. What I'm trying to say then in the context of your CV, writing your CV, the points that you think are highlights should be on top. The 3 or 4, they should be on top because they are going to stand out. First impression will last. Your audience must be in mind. Who am I writing to? Writing as a psychologist. I remember my supervisor, the first write-up was a labor economics write-up, and he said to me, are you really a psychologist? I said to him, no, what do you mean now? Honestly, I said to myself, I've given it the best shot. And he said to me, no, Chairman, go and write in psychology terms. This is not psychology. Write-up is fine, but change it. Change everything to psychology. So you want to keep your audience in mind, always. Because you don't want to use jargon they don't understand. Because in the process of sifting your interviews, screening on your interviews, we are not going to consult dictionaries. We're going to say they use big words and they're confusing even me. Okay, sharp. No, guys, these things happen. Remember, you advertise and 1,000 people call. You advertise and 1,000 people call. You want 30 people. Sometimes the best way to get over this thing is to just call the organization itself. Call the organization because every advert will be having something that says contact Sumaya Hendricks. Either over email or you call them or something like that. Grammar errors are a set of. Because it says, nowadays you don't need to go through every word. Just click the computer and say grammar and spelling and it checks for you. So in terms of personality, I will say, okay, this person, not punctual, but this person, I'll say, okay, and they're not carrying it. That's what I'm saying. This person is not carrying it. I mean, you ought to market yourself or sell yourself with a CV or a resume. But what you end up doing is you end up having commas that are lying by themselves. And you've got a copy and paste. Honestly, there was a copy and paste. A copy and paste. What I like about the copy and paste, it's a copy and paste. And in the middle of a copy and paste, there's a different font, it is bolded. So also I myself am not a keen supporter of using bullet points. But think about this, if you were to write a CV and you had to attach your reflections, including the ones that you gained, the learnings that you gained during this program. There's a lot of, how many presentations have you been through up and thus far?
9 days.
9 themes. How many presentations? You see, if you were to generalize that, I would be happy with bullet points because there's a lot of information. But within the context of a write-up such as a cover letter, I wouldn't necessarily be happy with that.
Yeah.
So how should a cover letter look like? Straightforward, 3 paragraphs. The 4th paragraph maybe is overdone. The 5th paragraph, So what do you do in the case where you don't know this person? You don't know this person, don't address. So from now on, this group will stop saying to whom it may concern. That person that is always sending those recruitment adverts is the hiring manager. You need to say, dear hiring manager. If they are an assistant, then you're promoting them. It's increasing your chances. But you need to know the people. Sometimes the executive directors themselves, and if you don't know them, call them. Or go online. You go to Mercedes-Benz, they've got a careers portal section, careers, they've got vacancies. Always at the bottom, contact this person. At least if you put the name of that person there, it's better than saying to whom it may concern. It's not addressed to anyone. As you are saying, to whom it may concern. Yeah. So if they're a doctor, use a doctor. So that's like a salutation. The first paragraph is always saying, I'm applying for this job as advertised, ABC, blah, 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 blah. That's it. I think it's 3 or 2 lines, that paragraph. And then you've got the second paragraph and the third paragraph, possibly the fourth paragraph, depending on the information that you want to put in. This body itself must be 2 or 3 paragraphs. So if we're saying salutation, saying paragraph number 1, you're mentioning the job and blah, blah, blah. Paragraph number 2, you need to cover very important information there. Why am I qualified candidate for this? Again, in their job ad, they said, when is someone with an undergrad, blah, blah, blah. This is why you're qualifying. Why don't you say that? But in a very simple way, in a way that is contextualizing based on the job advert. What work experience do I have that fits the job requirements in the company's listing? Why do I want to work for this company specifically? There's a lot of ways you can answer this one. There's a lot of ways, but we don't have time to go through. But you are interested, the main thing is you're interested. Sometimes moving to a new job means development, sometimes it means motivation. So there's a lot of ways you can answer this thing. Sometimes the reputation of the company, the company is reputable. In that case, you need to know the company in that case. You know, this is what the company has done in the past, blah, blah, blah. I think I'll be a better fit here because my personality, this is how the person that I am. I'm someone who's always striving to achieve goals, blah, blah, and I can see the company, blah, blah, blah. You're contextualizing now your response. This is also where you will want to, why do I want to work for this company? This is also where you will want to put in your value relations, your career relations. It's directly related to what you want, what you studied for. That is evident in the study field, that in your studies. That is evidence maybe in the organizations, professional organizations and informal organizations that you are part of. Mention how you, like the last paragraph is always closing or preparing for you to say best regards in Ntembeko. So that paragraph is going just to say, can't mention how you will proceed with the application. By that we mean you'll call the manager in 2 weeks or you send them another email. That is if the date of responses is not highlighted. If the date of responses is not highlighted, then you ought not to make such a statement. But I think sometimes the statement is important. Why? Sometimes they reject you. I know a lot of people who've been rejected and they argue their case telephonically. And they've been rejected and you call them. So sometimes when feedback is not coming, some people want feedback. And feedback is very important. Because with the candidate, it kind of like says, oh no, it's not going to be tailored like that because you can take them to court. Because when they say you are not fitting, they cite for an example culture. You understand what I'm saying? So you can't really discriminate a person using culture and say you can't fit in the culture of the organization. So companies are always very averse to giving feedback. Very, very, very averse to giving feedback. But you may try and seek feedback and stuff. But the most important part there, I think, is that keyword that says, I'm interested in hearing from you, and possibly the possibility of an interview, blah, 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 or stuff like that. No, we are done so much. 5 minutes. I don't know. So this is basically how you should pitch the frame of mind that you should be in when you are writing your CV. The first thing is you need to constantly update your CV. Every day is a learning journey. You don't necessarily need to say when the job comes and say, yo, hey, okay, can I apply for this job? You must now be in a position where you say on a weekly or monthly basis, this is what I've learned. Irrespective of ASRI, on a weekly or monthly basis, this is how I've developed as a person. So that you don't find yourself reacting to situations. You're always ahead of situations, you're proactive. So you would have that CV, that broad, very big CV, or that broad journal of yours that says this is the things that I've achieved and stuff. But you also have that succinct resume. But at the same time, you ought to have a personal statement by now. A personal statement, brief personal statement by now. When someone asks you, who are you, you're able to say blah, 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 blah. Just brief personal statement. This is my belief in philosophy and everything. And that's it. So that's the first question you are asked in an interview. Tell us more about yourself. And a lot of you shiver. Oh, you know that one. Yo, what is it that they want to know? We want to know about you. Tell us about yourself. And a lot of people that are able to bypass that stage, and people who are very, very articulate in who they are, why they are here, what is it that they believe in, what is their philosophy in terms of, you don't necessarily to be political, but this is in terms of social justice, this is what I think, blah, 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 blah. Kind of like give the person a platform to kind of like engage with you. And lastly, I think we'll do this during the course of the month. This is the exercise you do. So what you will do is you will find an organization. You will first look at yourself. I will send you, I think tomorrow or Thursday, I will ask Mania to remind me. I will send you the readings on our land. It's kind of like a 4-page or 5-page to say this is what our land says, these are occupations, when we talk about realistic occupations, so that you have self-insight. You know, these are my career values and stuff like that. And once you do that, and then you identify an organization, and then me and you will be in the process now of doing a proper CV or proper resume as required in terms of going forward. This is what I'm offering you. So I think we've got now from now up until, my orientation is bad, it's April, May, June, maybe July up until July to do that, 2.5 months to do that. Selma was just speaking to me to say, okay, I've found some few NGOs here with work there. So if you even now have an opportunity or a job offer in which you want to apply, you can approach me and say, can you apply here? I'm not going to apply for you. What I'm going to be able to do to you is say, write your CV, give me your CV. Let's look at your CV, and let's criticize your CV, and let's read to your CV. Let's submit your CV. That's the process that I want to achieve with you before you leave and fly, and you'll be good citizens. Thank you.
So on behalf of the ASRI Fellows, I'd like to humbly thank you for giving us a glimpse into the other side of the selection panel. And, I think there's much to reflect about how we go about writing our CVs and presenting ourselves to the workplace. So thank you so much. That's another